Hey, welcome to Wednesday Wisdom for this week. I don't know whether you heard about that crazy story in the news about this 94-year-old Iranian guy who was, well, let's put it mildly, he was a little eccentric. Apparently, he hadn't taken a bath in 60 years. And he lived out there as kind of a wild guy. He only ate roadkill and all sorts of weird things. And he lived in a hole in the ground. And people were always trying to help him, but he would never accept any help. And he would never take a bath, never eat normal food. And the story goes, one time, a bunch of teens got him in a car and they were taking him to this river. And he realized where they were taking him and he jumped out of the car while it was moving and he ran away. But eventually, and this is recent, the villagers there, they were trying to help him. They built him a little shack and he would live in the shack during the winter. And finally, they won him over and he began to trust them. And they convinced him, he believed that like if he took a bath, he would die. He had this belief and they kept trying to convince him, no, you won't die, you'll feel better. And so over the years, they worked on him until they finally convinced him to take a bath. And he took a bath and 3 days later, he died. Weird. But it's a crazy story. And hopefully it doesn't happen too often. But it, just made me think that sometimes we're so convinced we know what's good for somebody else. And we spend all our time trying to convince them on what's good for them. When maybe what's needed is that we listen a little bit more, that we understand a little bit more. Obviously, this is an extreme case. But how often do we do that? We jump in, we start giving people advice before we really understand their whole situation, the whole context of what they're living, and before we have any real sympathy for what they've gone through. And we do that a lot, right? And sometimes we wind up giving very unkind or unhelpful advice. So let's make sure whenever we do try to help somebody, we're doing it with humility and with real charity.